This is the Tom Anderson Show, broadcasting live from the KVNT studios, 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday.
Well, we are back, and beyond the Ukrainian-Russian war and COVID, a lot of other things happening in the United States. One, we see a war on tech. We have the wrong administration. We have the wrong party in charge, certainly of the House of Representatives congressionally, because the majority of Democrats are not business-minded or entrepreneurial. They're not business owners. Szabo joins us, VP and General Counsel at NetChoice, and he is one that's been a sentinel, and he's portending, prognosticating, hopefully not accurate, and I'm feeling the way you feel, Carl. We're going downhill when it comes to tech suppression and when it comes to government really holding technology and business expansion and credits and everything back. And so I'm glad that you could join us this morning, and we'll talk about this. First, let's talk about NetChoice and who you work with.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So NetChoice is a tech trade association that promotes free expression and free enterprise. And a lot of this comes from a kind of limited government free markets approach. I myself am an originalist. I teach at George Mason's Antonin Scalia Law School even. And what we're seeing is an attack on not just technology, but the fundamentals of this country in what made it great. And that is the ability for everyone to go out and be the best, be the most successful they can be, and getting government out of the way of innovation, enterprise, and exceptionalism.
Well, if we look at the administration and the way I led the interview with the comment about the Biden administration, and without getting personal and without talking about certain congressional members, just in general, do you concur with me that the spirit of our current Congress, and I'm talking about the left, and the White House administration, they're not really business or tech friendly?
You know, Tom, when you went to the commercial break, you played a song from one of my all-time favorite movies, Rocky IV, where Rocky Balboa fought against Ivan Drago and Russia. And it's fairly similar to what we're seeing today, where if you turn back the clocks back to the 1980s, what made America so successful? Well, we are the greatest economic powerhouse on the planet because you had President Reagan kind of pulling back on the throttle of government oversight and allowing innovation and businesses to grow. Now, if you look at the current administration and you look back at the State of the Union from President Biden, when we see all of the problems that are going on in the world right now, not just internationally, but domestically, inflation, gas prices, the cost of food at supermarkets. Well, it's nothing that the administration has done wrong, according to the State of the Union. No, it's those evil businesses that are the fundamental problems. It's big oil, it's big pharma, it's big meat, it's big tech. And what you're seeing is American businesses, which have made us the envy of the world, are becoming a scapegoat for what seems to be an administration that thinks that government is the solution to all of our economic woes, and that the actions that you see in Venezuela and Cuba and those types of regimes where it's centralized in government control are the preferred method of governance, not the limited government free market system that America has encouraged and grown in for the past 200 years.
I look at your background and the fact that you, and this is, when I was practicing law out of law school briefly, and then I went into the marketing world, intellectual property, it's a very unique niche. And then you segue into the e-commerce and internet sphere and space. And like you mentioned, you're over at George Mason, and the law school there as a professor of internet law. All of these they may be niche, but it's becoming modern day with social media, with policies. We're even seeing it. I started with Ukraine and Russia. I'm sure you're intrigued by that. Look at what Zelensky's doing using influencers and internet. Look at what Putin's doing where he blocks classic communism like China, blocks use and access. And then we see what companies are doing. Would you say at a global level, this is a new dawn for how businesses deal with wars in other nations? I mean, now they're inextricably linked, aren't they? If you hear about a war in Asia, God forbid, or Russia and Ukraine or Africa, there is a supply chain effect, but there's also a technological effect. And I think those are so connected that I think Biden should be aware of that, and he's not. Do you see the whole playing field changing in years to come, and Russia and Ukraine an identifier of that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things is, of course, we see the tanks rolling from Putin into Ukraine, but another war is occurring simultaneously, and this is a cyber war and an information war. And information wars are not exactly new to the battlefield. I mean, World War I, they cut telephone lines to control information flows. You have William Randolph Hearst famously saying back in the late 1800s, you give me the pictures, I give you the war. But because of social media, because of the internet, because of these American innovations, the truth is now out there in full color for everyone to see. And that's one of the things that authoritarians fear. Authoritarians like Vladimir Putin, like President Xi over in China, they're terrified of the people having access to information. And so right now, Vladimir Putin is trying to create his great cyber wall, similar to what China has, and trying to shut down information and facts from reaching the Russian people and from allowing the Ukrainian people to make the rest of the world see in real time, in living color, the atrocities that are being committed by this administration. Now, what I also worry about, though, is Vladimir Putin just this past Friday passed a law to criminalize disinformation about the war. Well, a couple months ago, we've seen legislation in Congress to try to criminalize disinformation or hate speech online. And one of the wonderful things that our founders created is the First Amendment. And the First Amendment is designed to protect us from the government. And the government telling us what we can and cannot say, and to protect the government from coming and creating what's called compelled speech. And what I worry about is some in Congress trying to use their oversized power to shut down free speech online. And we're definitely seeing it from the Democrats and some of the legislation introduced, like something called the Nudge Act, as it's described. But these are authoritarian efforts, and we as Americans need to be that beacon on the hill for democracy. And I thank God that we are the foundation of the technology that is the envy of the world, that is providing a light to the world of truth and information so that the people can make decisions for themselves rather than the state-run media that we see in Russia and China.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Carl Szabo is his name, Vice President, General Counsel, NetChoice. If someone wants to follow your work, if they want to connect with NetChoice, can they donate to NetChoice? Are you a business? Are you a nonprofit? Are you a think tank? Are you something that someone can follow on Facebook or through a newsletter?
Yeah, the best way to stay up to date with the activities that we're up to is you can go to our website, netchoice.org, netchoice.org. And you can, of course, follow us online on Twitter, for example, at NetChoice. And you can follow me at Carl Szabo, CarlSzabo.
One last question, Carl, and I look forward to having you back on again as things unfold on the world playing field and certainly technologically in America. Last question for this interview is, what's the way, and you'll have to be brief, that people can make a difference? Is it really in the election? forthcoming? And is it the right policymakers getting elected?
Complex question. Simple answer,
Sorry.
I would say, yeah. Not for my own benefit, but for everyone's benefit, get heavily involved in your local elections. As much as the federal elections matter, the person who decides your zoning and school boards have a lot more impact in your day-to-day life.
Yeah, it's true. That's a good start. We'll get you back for sure. Carl Szabo is his name. NetChoice is where he is at and parked, and you can follow him, and he has great credentials. And I think it's important that we're aware of it. And as he said, it starts at your local government. Folks, stay with us. Good morning. Tom Anderson Show.